Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Nick family. Welcome to the Just Nickin' It. I wouldn't even say weekly show because we might be back Thursday. This is the Pacers series preview. If you've been under a rock, the Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Game 1 is tomorrow against the Indiana Pacers. All games on TNT, all games at 8 p.m. Ah man, looking forward to it. Today we're gonna talk about a lot, but we're definitely going to talk about the Pacers as well. I feel like we were talking about this before we got on. In order to beat an opponent, you got to know who you're dealing with, right? You got to line them up. You got to know their strengths and weaknesses. So we'll talk some about the Indiana Pacers. Obviously, the Knicks know who they are, but I want the fans to kind of know who they are as well. And then we'll talk about what advantages we have, what advantages they have, what do we need to do to win the game. We'll talk about matchups as well. This is just a clash of styles. So it's really going to be interested to see who's able to the team that's able to play their style the most wins the series, in my opinion. But we're joined by Geoff Klafter from the Happily Ever Klafter Daily Sports Blog. Ajay Hollywood, the villain, is in the house. And my own NBK family. I started on Nothing But Knicks, for those who don't know, and I shared the panel many a night with Cornerstone Kev. A few of these grays in my hair is from Cornerstone, who always wanted to talk about how quickly and these rookies, how we can't trade them and we got to hold on to them. And many a night we went back and forth. And that's how he got the name Cornerstone, because he would talk about how quickly and whoever else it was, Barrett was the cornerstone of the franchise. And here we are 4 years later with an opportunity, 4 or 5 years later, with an opportunity to go to the NBA Finals. Cornerstone. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, Steph. It is a pleasure to be back in your presence, Queen.
Appreciate you.
You are a cornerstone of this Knicks fandom.
Appreciate that.
It is a privilege to be back here. It really is. And it's great to meet Geoff and meet AJ.
Ajay.
I'm sorry.
Hollywood.
I'm gonna call just Hollywood. If
He just got that name last week.
Well, he's got it from me. He's gonna call Hollywood. But no, it's really great. Just to give people a little small synopsis of what's been going on. Just stuff going on, with my wife and everything, health reasons, and we're dealing with that. But I haven't stopped, seeing my Knicks, seeing the progress, seeing the humongous trades that have happened that I never thought would happen, with us getting really dating back to when we first got Jalen Brunson. I just wanted, me and Steph was talking. I just wanted a point guard that could, guide the team, and he has turned into a bona fide superstar and a bona fide leader, and
Absolutely.
he is that guy, and he also said that money is not really an issue, and took that that contract that he signed that was able to bring us Mikal Bridges and all these and Towns and all these other guys. And I always say how leadership is best when it's displayed, and the team has pretty much fed off of what Jalen Brunson gives, and I'm privileged to have him on my team. We are lucky to have him on our team. And I see nothing but great things with him. I mean, people were saying for this year that it was just going to be a getting our feet wet pretty much. And we're on the verge of actually going to the NBA Finals.
Thanks.
Let that sink in. Let that sink in. So I'm just thrilled. I'm just thrilled, and I'm glad to be back with everybody in the chat. I've missed y'all, I've loved y'all, and I'm just glad to be back. At least for tonight.
Yeah, and you're welcome anytime. That link is a forever link. So whenever you see us on that same link, you got the keys to the car now. You can
Absolutely.
come in.
Well, I've pinned it,
whenever
so
you
don't.
want.
Yes, ma'am. I've
Whenever
pinned
you
it,
want.
so don't even worry about it. Don't
Jeff,
even worry.
Ajay, how y'all doing?
I'm great until tomorrow night. We'll see how we're doing at this time tomorrow, but we're doing great right now.
Hollywood?
Queen, I'm always happy to be here, and I'm glad we have Cornerstone Kev.
Yes.
Honored to have him, with us tonight. Missing Jerrell, missing Delusional, and
Yeah.
whoever else. Like usually we have a
Boogie, Trey, drop by.
exactly. Yeah.
The fam, the fam.
The fam, missing the fam, because
Yeah, Tony
today's a
Crow
big
might
day.
drop by if he has time. He had a show earlier today.
I was actually checking it out with the show they just did on NBK.
Yeah, Losers. I
The
know
Losers
Ajay. That's
Club.
one of your Tony.
That's my favorite
That's
show.
one of Ajay's favorite shows.
I love that show.
He loves that show.
I do.
Yeah, I've been peeping that out too. Yeah, I've been peeping out everybody's show.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
he's doing his thing. I love him.
Yeah. Definitely appreciate the community that we have here.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, let's get right into it. I'm gonna start with a real simple question. What do you know about the Pacers, either from watching them, from when we played them, from reading about them? What do you know about the Pacers? Just trying to get a good picture of what we're up against. Cornerstone, we'll start with you. We'll do like 1 minute, 2 minutes max. What do you know about the Indiana Pacers?
Okay, Steph, what I need you to do is do this,
Mhm.
and then I'm gonna stop because I'm not gonna go over this thing because I'm just so excited. What do we know about the Pacers? First off, I dislike them immensely because they've been a part of my life for, ever since I really come to being a Knicks fan, and that was like I was telling Geoff. That started back in '93. So that's how long I've been a fan, and my real, I won't say hatred, but my really dislike for them was in '94. So that's how that goes. But as far as this Pacers team is concerned, they're going to get a taste of us at full strength, because even in game 1 from last year, they didn't feel our wrath fully. Yeah, we won the first 2 games, but once players started going down, it was open season. It was a little bit of open season for us. They got us at full strength now. So now we're going to see, what they think to do. And also, and I know we'll touch on it later on, but they're going to feel the wrath of Mr. Robinson. And we'll talk about him, him in a minute. But that's the way I feel. The only player that I really fear, and this will surprise a lot of people, one person I really feel is McConnell, because I've seen McConnell up close ever since he was with, the 76ers. I was at those games when we were in those quote unquote dark years, and we played the Sixers, and I've sat almost courtside and saw McConnell up close.
Nick
He's the only one I fear, the most. Everybody else, we can handle. That guy, he is that dude. He is that dude. So
Okay,
that's what I have to say on that.
All right, Geoff, what just a brief synopsis of what you know about the Pacers.
Well, I made a mistake, Queen, and I tried to do some homework for the show, and the more digging I did, the less I liked our chances. This team is really good offensively. I mean, Naismith and Nembhard are shooting lights out, and we already know that Miles Turner is a real good 5-out center. Siakam is the perfect four for that team, and Halliburton is really good too, but more so than the individual talent, because I feel like the Knicks have better talent than the Pacers do.
I agree.
But I feel like it's the worst possible matchup in terms of style. They run a ton of off-ball screens and ghost screens, stuff that the Knicks have been awful at defending pretty much all season long. And you know, we got some diet of that in the Celtics series, but the Celtics ran that stuff to get into ISO, which kind of worked more toward the Knicks' favor. The Pacers don't do that. They run that stuff so they can get wide open threes and make you move and get it to the open player. And they're very, very good at it. And they're just a problem. I mean, very good offensively and an underrated defensive team as well. I mean, they outscore their opponents this postseason by 5 points per game. And their defensive rating is, you know, if you just look at total number of points scored, you're like, yeah, that's not that good a defensive team. But when you consider how fast they play and the pace that they play at, they actually get after you on the defensive end pretty well. And so it's going to be, and I don't know that this is a series the Knicks can win with their defense. And I think we're going to have to outscore them. And I don't know if we can do that or not.
All right. Okay. I mean, for those who are just checking in, like, is this a Knick podcast or is this a Pacers podcast? What we're doing is we're just starting, just lining them up, just kind of talking about them a little bit, so we know what we're dealing with, the type of team they are, and then we're going to get into the Knicks and what the Knicks need to do to win the series. Ajay, what do you know about the Pacers, or what have you found out?
Probably more than most of you guys. I've watched a few more Pacers games than the average Knicks fan.
Mm-hmm.
There are three things that you got to know about the Pacers, right? First of all, don't compare them to last year's team. I hear a lot of people say, well, last year we took them to game 7, you know, we were hurt. That's this year's team's completely different. And so are we. We're a completely different team. This is a completely different series. Do not compare them to last year. That has nothing to do with it. Okay. Number 2, they're a very deep team. We play 7 guys in our rotation. The 8th guy you don't even count because you have Campaign playing like 3-4 minutes or whatever the hell he plays.
Mm-hmm.
The Pacers play 10, 11 guys. Okay. So they're stretched. I mean, they're not stretched thin at all. And Coach Carlisle, he's very comfortable with all 11 guys that he plays. He interchanged them where he sees fit. He has no problem playing those guys. You know, like he's completely total confidence in his guys. Okay. And the third, of course, we're going to talk more about that. They're very consistent. Okay. So that could be good. That could be bad. Okay. There are like 5 things they do consistently. Chances are one of those things or 2 of those things teams will have problems with. If you could figure out those 5 things, then you're going to beat them. Okay. But they're very consistent. They're like a machine with the 5 things that they do. I don't know those 5 things yet. I'm still digging a little more, but there are a few things that they do consistently, and it's always the same thing. It's usually the same result that they get. So we're gonna have our hands full. The Knicks gonna have their hands full with this.
Yeah. What I will add to what you 3 have said is they don't turn it over, right? They're a low turnover team as well. They play with pace. You know, they like to push the ball and play fast, even after misses. You know, even after makes. They like to push the pace. They pressure the ball handler 94 feet. You know, so I think they do that to, you know, try to wear you out by the 4th quarter, but also maybe even playing the long game and trying to wear you out if the series goes 6 or 7, right? They're deep to your point, Ajay, which does allow them to play, you know, at this faster pace. And they're not just a team that you have to stop in transition, and you do. And we're going to get into that. Like, the Knicks have to be on point with their transition defense. But then even in the half court, they can also generate points, right, out of the pick and roll with Halliburton, and they have a post presence with Siakam. Again, for those just joining us, we're just getting into the Pacers and who they are. We'll get into the Knicks and what the Knicks, can do. In terms of wins, number of wins, and just statistically, they've been better than the Knicks since January 1st. They just got off to a horrid start over the first 25 games or so, and then finished just one game behind the Knicks. So I do want to just point out just what their offensive and defensive rating has been. This is since January 1st. So they've basically been top 10 in offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating from January 1st to the end of the season, not including the playoffs. The Knicks have been 16th in offensive, defensive, and net rating. And listen, for the Knicks, we know that Jalen Brunson was out for a good portion, toward the end of the season, 14 or 15 games or so. Mitch was out for a good part of that. But for those who were on the team, this is what it was from January 1st to the end of the season. In the playoffs, they also, both teams are top 10. Well, top 10 out of 16 teams, but Indiana has been second in offensive rating, eighth in defensive rating, fifth in net rating, and I think that's like 5.5 or 5.3 in net rating. The Knicks are seventh in net rating, but it's 0.1 net rating. Like, the margins have been really slim for the Knicks. Offensively, ninth out of 16 teams and fifth out of 16 teams. So the point is, to Jeff's point, we're dealing with a team that's very good in transition, very good offensively, but also underrated defensively. And you can argue, remember how we said Detroit helped us grow? I think the Knicks, because I remember last year when we played the Pacers, like the first two games or so, we were like pushing them around, being real physical. By the end of that series, they was just as physical as we were, and that's and that's still the case. Effective field goal percentage, 58 point, like their first through 10 games right now, effective field goal, and I think that's might even supposed to be. Is it 58? I think it is 58.3. Defensive rebounding percentage. I like percentage better than total rebounds because it takes into account pace. They're six, grabbing 70% of available defensive rebounds. The Knicks are 11th, grabbing 68.2. Where we have the advantage, and we'll talk about this later on in the show, is the offensive rebounds. The Knicks are sixth in the playoff, grabbing 32.1% of available rebounds, and a big Mitch and Hart's a big part of that. Cat too. And Indiana 16th out of 16 teams in offensive rebounding percentage. I mean, it's a clash of styles, so to speak. Would you agree in terms of how we play and how they play?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's kind of let's talk about that. Let's talk about the clash of styles. Whoever wants to talk about it.
I guess the person to start with may be the guy who used to play at Madison Square Garden, Obi Toppin. Knick fans know well that he likes to, as soon as the shot goes up, he wants to leak out and start going the other way for a fast break dunk, even before the ball is secured, right? But the Pacers are a lot that way as a group, right? They don't put a lot of effort into crashing the glass and those sorts of things. So, if the Knicks, Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart in particular, can keep possessions alive, get us to multiple opportunities, I think that is one of the biggest weaknesses couldn't potentially exploit in this series, because none of their guys are really that outstanding on the defensive glass, in my opinion. I think we have a potentially huge advantage there. And if they're paying attention, as Boston did, putting a body on Mitch, maybe that frees up Josh Hart to come in and get some of those rebounds. And so if you're looking for advantages for New York, I think that's one of the ones that is the most glaring, and one of the ones we're going to have to maximize if we want to win the series. Because if you can control the glass, you can control the paint, and you control the pace, rather, not the paint. But you control the pace a lot better if you're getting the rebound.
Yeah. Both defensive rebound and offensive rebounds, right? The more you're getting second and third opportunities, they don't have the ball, so that definitely helps. They're in pace. Do I have that slide here? Yeah, I do have it. And this is the major, to me, one of the major differences between the two teams is they like to play at a fast pace, and the Knicks like to play slow, basically. Hold on. I want you guys to. Okay, no, that's not what I meant. All right. I'm not sure what I did the last time. But right now in pace, they're third. And there really hasn't been a lot of drop off between their pace in the regular season and their pace in the playoffs. Probably one less possession, a little over one less possession. The Knicks is 8th out of 16 teams in the playoffs. Since January 1st, they were 9th in pace. The Knicks were 26th in pace. And for the season, they were 7th in pace. And the Knicks were 26th in pace. So this is definitely they want to play fast. They want to get out in transition. They want to get easy buckets. And the Knicks want to take their time, not turn the ball over, wither the clock down. I think the Knicks are really good at, and they might be one of the top teams in shooting with under 5 seconds left on the shot clock, which helps us in this series. And they're not doing something that they're not used to, right? A lot of times you have these high octane teams and you're like, we got to slow the pace, but you're not used to playing, that way. This is how the Knicks play, right? So it's just a matter of, can they speed the Knicks up? Can the Knicks slow them down? That's going to be a big part of this series. Anything else before we get into actual matchups? Are you saying something, Cornerstone? You're muted. Oh, those them same headphones from 4. You remember you was having issues with that headphone 4 years ago.
Yeah, I can't hear you, boss.
We can't hear you. All right, let me read this super chat while he's figuring it out. Shout out to Paris Duggar, always rocking with us. Most important thing I see about the Knicks is, without being a great shooting team, they whoa. What they Oh, hold on. They actually embarrassed Boston. This team is so weird. Dominate. What is going on? My iPad just decided it wants to start playing a
Can you hear me
playing
now?
a show.
Yeah, I can hear. Another county heard from.
Okay. All right.
All right, go ahead, Cornerstone.
Yeah, what I was going to say, I was going to expand on what Geoff was saying. Because we're talking about them, they're talking about the Pacers with being fast, with their pace and everything. If we control the glass, if we control the rebounds, we can eliminate. Well, now I won't say eliminate, but we can alleviate most of their them going back and forth, on
Right.
us. They are, from what I heard, I forget who I heard it from today, but they are not the best rebounding team out there. So between Carl, Mitch, and
Josh
I'm
Hart.
gonna throw Josh Hart in there. Yeah, between those three, they can get us those rebounds. We'll be able to have them play our game instead of us having to keep up pace with them. So it's going to be it's going to be hard on them to stay with us if we're controlling the glass. So
Yeah.
that's what I want to say.
Yeah, and in the series last year, the team that won the rebounding battle won the game. I don't know if that holds true this year, but last year that was the case.
And like Geoff said, I mean that team was last year, but when you look at the optics, those three guys that I just named towards the end of Game 7, they weren't on our. We didn't have them.
Right.
So that's another thing that that people have got to think about.
Right. For sure. Anything else before we move on to move into? Okay. All right. So we're gonna start with Ajay. Ajay, pick a matchup you want to talk about.
Well, the head of the snake, man, Tyrese Halliburton against Mikal Bridges. That's gonna be the matchup. It's not gonna be Halliburton Brunson. So,
Yeah.
This is a matchup we didn't see last year, obviously, because we did not have Mikal Bridges. But this is a matchup I'm comfortable with if I'm the Knicks, because I think it's not that we have the upper hand, but I think Mikal Bridges might be able to slow him down some. Because of his activity on defense and his length and his ability to get through the screens. Okay, so they hopefully not have to switch every time. I think they should mix it depending on who's setting the pick, but Mikal Bridges has the ability to go through the screen and stay with Tyrese Halliburton, whereas the defender with the screener have to pay attention to the screener, okay,
Right.
to prevent the pick and roll and pick and pop and so on and so forth. So it's not a situation where Bridges is going to be able to stop Halliburton, but you'll be able to slow him down. And if you could slow him down, he doesn't get in his groove. He doesn't get in his rhythm. I think that's advantage New York Knicks. Okay.
The one thing I will say, because I agree with you totally. The one thing I will say that I've seen in this team that I really haven't seen throughout the at least throughout the season, their communication has been better on point than I've seen in a long while. And you saw that really in this Boston series too. So I'm really liking the communication on defense that they're displaying.
Yeah. It hasn't been as consistent as I would like it to be.
Right.
Definitely better, and hopefully it takes another step in this series. I think it needs to be. Anything else on this matchup?
I think that one of the keys is Mikal's got to make Tyrese work on defense, unless they're going to cross match it and try and hide him on Hart, which is possible. But if he has Halliburton on him, he's got to get to his spots and cook him and make him work on defense, back him down in the post, and get some of those mid-range buckets that he's feasted on throughout the playoffs. I think that's going to be a key to this series, is Bridges not only being a stalwart defender on Halliburton, but being able to make him guard on the other end and punish the Pacers for his lack of defensive prowess. In my opinion, that I don't think he's the best of defensive players. I don't watch as very much Pacer basketball. So Ajay, if my take on Halliburton's defense is wrong, please correct me, because I'm talking based on reputation as opposed to what I've actually seen.
So he's a better defender this season, and I'll tell you why. Especially in a situation like the Knicks, right? I think he figured out that he's got the length on a lot of point guards in this league. So even when he's beat, he doesn't give them a play as much as he did in previous seasons. Okay. So he continues, like, he's a little bit more relentless in trying to block shots. So he's a pretty good shot blocking point guard, especially if you have guys like Brunson and Deuce McBride, because we small at that position. So if we have guys like this, he could be very effective in that way. Like, he's not a great defender, but he's better than he was last season. Okay. And Geoff, one thing you said, like, if they try to hide him on Josh Hart, that's an easy fix. The Knicks got to, it's the Knicks' jobs to set a screen, and get the matchup that you want. Okay. If the first screen don't work, get the second one to get the matchup that you want. We can still make him work on defense, or we get wide open shots, depending. If he doesn't want to work on defense, we're going to get the shots. At that point, we're going to have to hit him. We're going to have to keep hitting those shots until they figure something out. Okay, but you can get the matchup you want with Tyrese Halliburton. But like I said, if he's on a smaller guard, he's better than last season in the sense that he doesn't just give up on the play when he's beaten off the dribble, because he will get beat off the dribble easily with Brunson or with Deuce. But he stays with the play a lot more this season than he's done in the past.
Yeah,
okay.
I've read that.
Let me ask you a question, Hollywood. So throughout these two playoffs, we've seen Brunson go up against who's
Sarr,
Sarr. Okay, yeah, that's what
Derek White,
Sarr and Derek
Drew
White.
Holiday.
Would you put defensively?
No.
Okay.
No.
Absolutely
Okay.
Not even in the same sentence. No.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So that's why I'm saying I believe, not so much Deuce per se, but I believe that I believe in my heart that Brunson will get him figured out.
Oh,
and he'll be able to get his
Brunson,
shot.
Halliburton is not going to be within a 10-block radius of of jail and Brunson. They're going to hide him. So I want to talk about the Mikal Bridges part of it first.
Okay.
I think this is, I'm not going to say a perfect matchup for Mikal Bridges, but when you think about last year and this year, like, we have somebody that can guard him. I think Deuce did a good job last time, but Deuce comes off the bench. So we'll still have that as well. But as a starter, to have Mikal Bridges with his height and his length, he's gotten better in screen navigation. I think this is a really good matchup to make it harder for Halliburton. Now, he's better this year than he was last year. Last year, there were games where he was just non-existent. That happens. You can slow him down a little bit, but it's less so than last year. But if anybody can do it, I definitely think it's Mikal Bridges. The fact that you're not going to have to double team, you're not going to have to you could just put one person on Halliburton.
Okay.
Right.
So what I was saying was I was reversing it. I was saying if Halliburton was sticking with Jalen. That's
won't.
what I'm saying. Right.
No,
Exactly. Yeah,
he won't.
You're absolutely right.
He won't be. But to the other part, I think they're gonna hide him on Hart. I think they're gonna hide him on Hart.
Okay.
And you could do, Ajay, what you said is fine, but I need Hart to wear him out. I need Hart to wear him out in terms of on the offensive board. There is no way Halliburton is keeping Josh Hart off the offensive boards. No,
Halliburton doesn't block out at all. Like, they even he has Pacer content creators, they'll even tell you Halliburton is going to leak out just like Obi. He wants to get to the other end and run. He is not going to be putting a body on somebody and blocking out.
You have real power forwards and real centers cannot keep Josh Hart off the boards, man. It's not going to be Halliburton.
And so what may happen then is they may move Neesmith, which would be great because now Nembhard would have to guard Brunson. The point is, trying to hide Halliburton creates advantages for the Knicks, right? If Josh Hart is going crazy, you put him on Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges should be able to score if the Knicks recognize it and go to it. Be able to score against Halliburton, right? So,
not only that, Queen, if you're hiding Halliburton on Hart, that means that you're playing Towns with a big.
They will be.
And to me, that's advantage Karl Anthony Towns. I think that they're much better off, as counterintuitive as it might be, to put Nesmith on Towns like everybody else does, put a smaller guy on him, and then you tend to have him stand out like a little wallflower and, you know, and not be active and into the game. I think if a matchup like Miles Turner or Siakam, either one that you want to put on him, I think that's barbecue chicken time. I think that really plays into Towns' strength, and I think it lends itself to a big Towns series.
But this is the thing, Geoff. They have matchup problems with the Knicks, in my opinion, because first of all, Nesmith, he is physical. He's not a Tatum who's been on Karl Anthony Towns. He's not even a Drew Holiday who has been on Karl Anthony Towns. So I don't think they're going to do that, because then who guards Brunson? Right? You're going to put Nembhard on Brunson. You understand what I'm saying? So from just listening to the Indiana Pacers content creators, they believe that Hallie is going to be hidden on Hart, and that at least to start, it's going to be a traditional center on Karl Anthony Towns. Putting Nesmith on Towns, first of all, Towns should be able to eat that matchup up.
Come on.
And then who's guarding Brunson? So it just creates more problems for them. That's their problem.
That's right.
You know, that's their problem. I think it just creates more problems with them if they put Nesmith on
I have a
Towns.
question. When you say traditional center, does Pastor Siakam starts for them, right?
Their center.
Oh, yeah, so
Their
Miles
center.
Turner.
Not traditional like a
Okay. So,
in the post center, but they have to play their
but
center.
does Pascal Siakam start at the 4? Start
Yes.
at the, okay.
He starts at the 4. Geoff, pick a matchup you want to talk about, unless there's something else
Well,
on Bridges defending Halliburton.
I think whoever guards Josh Hart is interesting, right? I think that's the $1 million question, because what teams have done is stick their big man on Hart to great effect. I mean, you can pretty much trace the Knicks' struggles on offense from January 1st pretty much to saying, okay, we're going to play Towns with a smaller guy, and we're going to live with that mismatch, because he doesn't really want to go in the deep post over and over and over again. That's not his style. So, what do they do with Josh Hart? If they try and hide Halliburton on him, I think that's going to wear Halliburton down, because Hart, one thing Hart does do is move without the basketball. Correct. And so, I think that I'm not sure. But there's not really a great person to put him on, like if in our starting lineup, because I don't think he can check Bridges, and I don't think, and we know he can't check Brunson. They're going to avoid that like the plague. And they're not going to put him on. You can't put him on Towns. So where does he go? And if it's Hart, I think that's a win for the Knicks. Anytime that we can get Towns and Turner guarding each other, I think that's a big time advantage for the Knicks. So whoever guards Josh Hart, I think, is an interesting part of the series. That if they can get away with putting Turner on Hart, and then he can be the helper and the shot blocker and kind of play the Luke Cornett role, like we saw in the Boston series, I think that's much more effective for them, even if Towns can cook Nesmith, which, he's certainly capable of. But again, he doesn't always do that against smaller players for whatever reason. And we have a lot of tape on that from half a season to show that, what should be a mismatch isn't necessarily something that we're exploiting to its fullest. And that's something that we're going to have to do if we're going to win the series.
I agree with you. I don't think that's going to be an issue in this series. Like, I just can't imagine the Knicks not prioritizing Karl Anthony Towns in this particular series. And to me, Karl Anthony Cat is the swing factor in this series. He's
Both
the swing
sides of the ball.
factor. Yeah.
Yes.
In this series, and I agree with you. I think the energy of Hart, whether it's either Halliburton or Nembhard. I mean, if you put Turner on him, and then what? So you're gonna put, yeah. I mean, we'll see when they roll it out.
When they roll it out.
I,
Absolutely.
I the matchup I'm concerned about is Brunson guarding Nembhard. Because Nembhard has really raised his level of play in the playoffs, and he's not just somebody that's just going to stand behind the 3-point line, wait for open looks. He's first of all, he's a point guard. He's 6'5", and he's a point guard that plays off the ball. So you have a secondary ball handler. You have somebody who could play on or off the ball. So he could play on the ball, and Halliburton could play off. He's shooting the 3 in the playoffs. Again, they've played Miami and Cleveland. I don't think this is going to hold true for the Knicks.
Milwaukee.
But he's shooting the 3 at 50%, which is in the 100th percentile for his position. I don't even know if it's for his position or just 100th percentile, period, for everybody that's played. He's hitting it at a really good clip, not necessarily the corner 3, but above the break. Really good 3 and really good in the mid-range game. So Jalen Brunson, if he's guarding him, really has to move his feet to try to keep him out the paint and can really pick up fouls. So that means they might put Brunson on Nesmith, right? So who's much more physical than Nembhard, but I don't think he has the handle and that type of ability. So that's going to be interesting. I initially thought it would be Nembhard, but after reading about how he's been playing, I think Brunson, they'll probably have to hide him on Nesmith. Thoughts on who Brunson plays in this series?
I think it's going to be him, Nembhard. After everything you said, I think it's going to be Nembhard, because out of the other starting players for Indiana, you don't want to. We don't want to see Brunson get foul out in one quarter.
3 minutes in the third quarter.
Yeah, that was insane.
If it ain't Tony Brothers, that ain't gonna happen. No,
exactly. So, but yeah, I think it will be Nembhard.
Okay, all right. I mean, he's definitely not as physical as Nesmith, right? So
Right.
Brunson wouldn't have to deal with the physicality guarding Nembhard, but he would have to move his feet. Thoughts on who Brunson will play? Ajay? Or who would you like him to play?
It's between Nesmith and Nembhard. I mean, either way, either way, it's a tough assignment. I mean, one is a better 3-point shooter, and the other one is more physical. I mean, he could literally back Brunson down in the paint every time, and he's been playing better too. By the way, he's shooting a lot better than he did last season, and he's even his 3-pointer. I don't know his percentage, but the eye test, when you watch the game, he's shooting the 3-pointer he's pretty good at it too. He's also bigger than Brunson, so he could shoot right over him. He could back him down. I mean, either way, it's just a problem. So,
yeah. And the thing I don't want, if I had my druthers, I don't want to see the Knicks in rotation at all. I just want to see the Knicks guard their player, give up a shot over the top, and just live with the results, similar to Boston. Now Brunson is getting killed. Now they're trying to come over. They're trying to help. This is a team that's very good in swinging the ball and finding the open guy player. And the Knicks haven't been the best in terms of their rotations. Perimeter rotations. So I think that's going to be a challenge. Any thoughts on that, Geoff?
Yeah. So my thoughts are this: Indiana's probably the number 1 pick and roll team in the league. The Nembhard does it really well. Naismith does it really well. And Halliburton does it really well. So it doesn't. All three of them are very capable, and points per possession wise, three at the top in the league, especially in the postseason. So what that basically means is they're going to be able to hunt the matchups that they want through the pick and roll. Whoever Cat is guarding and whoever Brunson is guarding, they're going to be in the pick and roll action. And so, I don't really see how we really prevent that. I mean, I'm in favor of switching everything. Don't double. I think if you blitz their pick and roll, that plays right into Halliburton's hands. Absolutely. And he's going to pick you apart. So I think you have to switch, live with the disadvantage, and crash the glass really hard on a miss, because Turner is a good pick and pop guy, and Siakam can do that some too. But Siakam is just a really good mid-range shooter, and he can score in the paint also. So you have bigs who are really effective on the roll end of it, and you've got their pick and roll creates more issues probably even than Boston, because Boston really just wants to shoot the three, and Indiana does too, but they're more than happy to feast on the inside with Siakam, especially off of the pick and roll. So it's going to be a massive challenge for the Knicks to stay with their assignments. And I hate to pick on Cat, but he's been real famous this year for, getting lost on possessions during this course of a game. He's really going to have to buckle down and be sharp on his rotations, because if he gets lost for even a second, that's a wide open three. And this team is shooting lights out from, like, both Naismith and Nembhard have effective field goal percentages in the 60s in the playoffs. That's out of this world good. And so we hope as Knick fans that they, regress to the mean, and that means they go back to shooting their normal percentages. But sometimes in the playoffs, you just stay hot. And if they stay hot, that creates a lot of issues for the Knicks. But to me, in an ideal world, you let Naismith and Nembhard try and beat you. Because I think if you stack up the offensive talent, in my opinion, of all five guys in their starting lineup, I think Halliburton is easily number one. Siakam is number two, and Miles Turner, just because of he can pull the big man out of the paint, can be a third option as well there. So if you want to say that they're on equal footing with Turner, that's fine. But again, if you're not getting beat by Halliburton and Siakam, I think that's about as much as you can hope for.
Yeah, if we're talking about regular season, Nembhard, the way he's playing now, he might be number 3. Let me just read the super chat. Parrish Duggar, if we play Mitch with Cat, we blow them away. Yeah, I do think we'll see more of that. Hopefully we'll see more of that in this series. I want to say, yeah.
Question on that. Do you think that they'll be
on the double big? I want to say something about
Go ahead.
Your comment, then we can get to the double big. I agree with you about Towns, but the entire Knicks defense is going to have to be on point. Is this the Knicks, the Knicks we saw in game 6 versus Boston, where it seems like they didn't even miss a rotation? Like everybody was on point. We might win this in 5 games if that's who we're getting consistently game in and game out. But if we get the team from game 5, some in drop, some think, I thought we was going to switch that. I thought we were going to hedge that. Why are you in drop? We get that team, game over. They're like, they just can't. The Knicks defense is going to have to be on point. And maybe, listen, let us know in the chat if you feel like we're overstating Indiana's offense. But this is not like Detroit, whereas you miss a rotation,
and
they might miss a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think this is why we have, questions while we're asking if the Knicks defense will be on point. Because if they would have came with at least a fraction or even came with somewhat of that energy that they had in game 6, if they would have had that in game 5 and we win that game, our fears or whatever you want to call it, we wouldn't really have that for for the series. I really don't, because they will have shown us that we can get this done.
Right.
But it's because of game 5. It's because of game 3. It's because even in the Detroit series,
Yep.
Even some of the games we won, Kev.
Right. No, well, the games we won, I didn't expect for us to win. Like, I didn't expect us to win game 1 against Boston, and I darn sure didn't expect us to win game 2. Small story. We were at Universal Studios down there, and they had the game on the big screen. And I saw that we were getting, beat left and right. So I said, okay, we did what we had to do. We won, we got the split. We'll, go. So we did an attraction. I come out of that attraction, and we win the game. I'm like, how the heck did we do that? I'm busy getting on Twitter and everything. How do we do it?
Yeah.
It's stuff like that that leaves you puzzled, that how come they're not consistent with this effort? That's what, because I did not expect us to lose the way we did in game 3. And I sure as heck didn't expect us to lose the way we did in game 5.
Right. So this is one of the concerns I have with the Knicks. I think the game plan is clear. Will the Knicks be consistent enough as a team defensively, and will they get consistent contributions throughout this series? Indiana's a little deeper. If one of their starters have a bad game, I don't know, maybe you get 10 points from one of the bench guys. You know what I mean? Maybe, for the Knicks, we can't have 1 for 12 from any of our plays. We can't have a 8-point game. We can't. Everybody has to come offensively every single night, because if you're not hitting shots, you're putting a lot of pressure on your defense to hold them.
I will say, after game 6, it kind of gave me hope that we will see from here on out, that we'll see somewhat of a consistency, with this Knicks team, because what they did was, I don't even think celebrities, thought that what they were going to do, the way they did it.
Right.
I know I did not. I did not. And I'm going to tell you the turning point as well. It was in the second half when you saw Mitchell Robinson guarding all those, positions, and then that, to me, was the turning point of the game. When I saw that, I said, yeah, this
game is over.
This is done. This is done.
Yeah. Game. That just showed you how much, not just he was on point and locked in, and he was, that the Knicks were locked.
Yes.
The Knicks were locked in,
Yes.
In that series.
Absolutely.
IJ, I have a question for you. David L. Baya has a question for you, so I'm going to put that up. Clearly, he missed the first part of the show. We forgive you, David. We know you got a life. Serious question. We almost beat them last year with a half-ass team of broken players. We are way better this season and healthy. Why are people scared of the Pacers?
Well, I mean, I don't know that we're way better. We're better, not way better. And the problem is, so are the Pacers. They are also better this season. Queen, this is something I say all the time, right? The team, it's never the same team, right? Even with the same players. The fact that they played one more season together. So not only individually the players improve, but then as a team, the chemistry improved between them. That makes a huge difference. And let's not forget that last year, and this is something I was going to talk about before that question, we're talking about all the matchups in the starting lineup. But let's say, by the time they start rotating the players, right? We tied with them with the starting lineup, right? Who comes off their bench? Benedict Mathurin, Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, and they sprinkle in, I don't know, Thomas Bryant or Ben Shepherd, who's also very good. So this is a formidable bench that you have to. Who do you have to go up against that bench? Okay, So we're better than last season, but they're also better. The huge difference is we're spread thin and they're not. Okay. So you're going to have to play a lot of Knicks starters, a lot of minutes to even keep up with their bench. They have a very, very, a lot of players on their bench are starters on other teams. Ben Mathurin is a starter on many NBA teams. Okay. And
yeah.
No, go ahead, Corner.
No, what I was going to say was I totally agree with everything you just said. But you know what? In all honesty, I think Tibbs put us in that position of him, of us not utilizing our full bench. You see all these other teams, they're going like 8+ with their bench. And
In
we're
the playoffs or the regular season?
both. I say both.
Corner Kev, not a lot of team, because out of the 4 teams left, there are 2 of them go really deep into the
OKC and Indy.
Indiana.
But what do you call, Minnesota is kind of like us. Maybe they play 8 guys. Like they don't go.
Okay, they play 8. I'm saying now because I think Tibbs has probably got the picture that Cameron Payne ain't it. I think he's got the picture. Cameron Payne, he didn't even sniff Game 6. He didn't even sniff it. So I guess what I'm getting at is there's no reason why a Shamit or even the one that was filling in for Brunson when Campaign was out as well. What's the name?
I'm right.
Yeah, there's no reason why because DeLon Wright's not going to force the issue like Campaign was. He's not going to force it, and he's defensive minded. There's no reason why, Tibbs doesn't utilize some of these guys that he has, on his bench. At least those 2.
Well, let me ask this in terms of the bench and the pace. You're right. They play 10, sometimes 11 players.
But real heavy minutes, 9 guys. Like they have 9 guys that play like real, like started by. I don't know how he managed it, but that play
19 minutes
20,
or
19
so.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there are going to be times, though, when that bench is in where they're going to be playing against starters, the Knicks starters. And the Knicks should win those minutes.
Yeah.
Right? So it's do you stick with what you're doing, win those minutes, or do you play the long game, so to speak, and bring in a Shamit, bring in DeLon Wright, a Precious, whatever, to try to buy minutes for your guys. I think the Knicks are one of the most well-conditioned teams in the NBA. Shout out to the training staff, by the way, who was voted the best. I think the training staff of the year or the best training staff of the year by their peers. And we see the evidence of it. OG, Mitchell Robinson, Towns. Well, not Mitchell Robinson. OG, and Towns is probably the healthiest they've been in the past 5 years. Knock on wood, right? So as deep as they are, you're only playing 5 of them at a time.
Yeah.
You're only playing 5 of them at a time. If you have concerns about the Knicks not being fresh down the stretch, possible. If they're playing at a faster pace, that's possible. I'm okay with the rotation. I mean, the thing about extending it is you taking minutes from some of your better players. So if he wants to extend it, who would you want to see play more, and for who? For who? Because that's important. Everybody, we should play 12. But that's less minutes for your better player.
I think. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Corner Kev. So
no.
First of all, I don't think Tibbs is gonna change anything,
No, he's not.
and I have no problem with that either, because actually, especially the first two games at home, those bench minutes, I like you said, Queen, I want the Knicks to win those minutes, and I want to play the starters. And they're one of the best conditioned team in the league, so hopefully they can keep up and they can close the games, with strength. Okay, showing that they, not fade down, down towards the end of the fourth quarter when you really need them to step up. Okay, so I don't. I'm fine with not extending anybody's minutes, and of course you got to play it by ear, right? If you up 2-0 in the series, yeah, you may throw a couple of minutes down somebody's way in game 3 or game 4 to see where we're at, depending on how it goes. But the first two games are pivotal. I think because the first two games are here at home, it's pivotal. Like it adds a little bit of pressure on the Knicks to win those first two games and see where it goes, because you got to protect home court. We have not been great at home, especially obviously in the playoffs. We haven't been. So it's imperative that in this series we win the first two games at home if we want to make something of this series. So we cannot allow ourselves to go to Indiana after losing home court advantage.
Yeah. Geoff, I'm going to start this section with you. What are the Knicks' advantages in this series? Give us two Knick advantages. Leave some meat on the bone for the rest of us. Give us two Knick advantages in this series.
I think Jalen Brunson is a Knick advantage. I think he's the best player in the series. I know Halliburton's had some nice clutch games, especially in the playoffs, but I really think that when you're just talking about from a sheer crunch time clutch perspective, Brunson is phenomenal. He's definitely not scared of the moment. You have to account for him, and even when you throw the kitchen sink at him, it doesn't seem to matter. He's gonna find a way to get his shots, and a good deal of the time, those shots end up going in. So, I think Jalen is our biggest advantage, and then our other advantages on the offensive glass. I mean, Mitchell Robinson is at an all-time clip as far as offensive rebounding percentage. He's rebounding 20% of the Knicks misses when he's in the game. That's incredible.
And the Knicks are rebounding 40%, I believe, of missed shots when he's in the game.
So so he's probably drawing one or two guys with a box out, and he's still getting these rebounds. And so I think those two things are our biggest strengths as we go into this series.
Okay, Ajay, any other advantages you think the Knicks have in this series?
Besides our physicality, and I don't care what they say, we're more physical team than they are. I remember last season, they played this fake tough guy thing because we were injured. I'm not worried about that, and we play better defense than they do. Not that they don't play good defense. Our defense is more relentless, especially when our guys are focused. And of course, Jalen Brunson is an advantage. Karl Anthony Towns, I feel, can be an advantage depending on how he decides to play, because he's very inconsistent. If he decides to really play smart, he's going to be an advantage. I mean, we have a lot of advantages. We do. I mean, Mikal Bridges, think about it. Who's really going to be checking him? If he decides to be aggressive on offense, I don't think they have anybody that could stop him. On the other end. And of course the rebounding is a huge advantage for us, because Miles Turner, who could be their best rebounder, he doesn't really like to rebound for some reason. So I mean, that's just not what he does. So especially on the offensive board. But Mikal Bridges, again, he's one of my X factors, Queens. So far, every one of those series, Mikal Bridges, I feel like, has been, the key to to a lot of those games that we win. So like you said a little while ago, we can't be having one of those 1 for 12 games from him or from OG Anunoby. I mean, those those are pretty evenly matched up with them. So we have a lot of advantages. We just have to play smart and milk those things and take advantage of those advantages.
Yeah, correct. Cornerstone, any other advantages you think the Knicks have in the series?
2 words: Mitchell Robinson. People are selling this guy short. We didn't have him for the entire season. He only came back for 5 games, 5 or 6 games.
I think it was more than that, though. But
More than
yeah,
that, okay. And what he has done in these playoffs is so. I'm just happy for the man, because his rebounding, his defense. I swear, again, that sequence in that Celtics game was incredible. How he was able to recover. He's finally healthy, and he's just a great asset that that we have. And again, I'm going to say it again. Indiana did not see that last year. They're going to see it this year. They're going to see that this year. And I forget if it was Geoff or Hollywood that said it. I cannot wait to see that big lineup. I cannot wait to see that lineup. I cannot wait.
yeah. The thing, because there's such a difference in styles for the Knicks, there's like it's an advantage on one side, but then on the flip side, it might, you got to be careful with it. So you think about the Knicks in terms of offensive rebounding. That is a super advantage for us as a team, getting second chance, but it just helps us in terms of putting points on the board. It helps us even if you don't score, in terms of just having longer possessions. So if you have the ball, they don't have the ball. The flip side of that is, how many people are you sending to the glass? Because if you don't get that that offensive rebound, and all of your guys are crashing, now you're giving up potentially transition points the other way. And this is a very good transition team. So maybe they may send 1 or 2, to crash and put the others back. But they're so good in transition in terms of finding the advantage. So, and the more transition baskets we give up, I could see Thibodeau saying, and there's some coaches who do that, we're not going to the offensive glass because we're just giving up too much in transition. So in order for us to do that, the Knicks are going to have to be superb in transition. And when you talked about the double big lineup, that's the thing. It really helps us on the defensive end. It helps us on the offensive end as well. Cat is not a slouch. I mean, he's not as good as an offensive rebounder as Mitchell Robinson, but he's not a slouch. He's not a slouch either. But those two guys have to match up in transition as well. So when we playing that double big lineup, it's going to be interesting to see how well we match up with them, because they have that down to a science. And it's not even about getting to a man. You got to get to the correct. You got to get to the correct person, because if I don't know, let's just say Brunson gets down there first, a big will just come post him up in the key. So the Knicks transition defense is going to have to be on point, and it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like with that double big lineup in. And if the Knicks are taking away the transition, that's going to allow us to play that double big lineup more and get what we can get from it. Geoff, your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Well, the double big lineup is a concern to me for the simple fact that how are Mitch and Cat going to get back down the floor? How many times have we seen Towns catch the ball at the top of the key, make his move, make the basket, go into the third row. You do that against the Pacers, it's 5-on-4 the other way, and you're trading 3 for 2. How spry, and it was Robinson going to be able to go from crashing the glass to getting back on defense, or are we going to be dealing with 5-on-3 at the other end? That's a big concern for me.
I think he will. You know what? I have no concerns on Mitchell Robinson. I do have concerns with what you just said about Towns, but Mitch, I believe he's worked so hard, and I've seen him. After seeing him, I have no concerns on him. I really don't.
Kev, it's not this is just physical. It's not even about his one. We're talking about him crashing the glass, getting an offensive rebound, running back, matching up, because they run off of makes too. Like a lot of teams will just run off of misses. They run off of makes as well. And again, it's not just getting back, it's getting back and recognizing and matching up with somebody. And then there's mismatches too. So the person guarding you may not even be the person that you're guarding on the other end. So that further complicates the transition defense for all of the Knicks. To me, that's the number one key to the game. The Knicks are going to have to.
So you're more worried about transition than anything. You're more worried about transition than anything.
I'm worried about the transition first, and then I'm worrying about the Knicks being in rotation and half court offense second. Like that. That's my two concerns.
Okay.
Going into the series. Geoff, did you want to say?
And the cross matching is it's a good. Hey, Trey!
Hey, what's up, Trey? What's happening, man?
What up?
Good. Thanks.
How's it going?
What's good, family? What's good, chat?
Everything's good. Everything's everything.
That's what's up.
Oh, you are my guy. That's what's up. We're so glad you were able to join us. But what I was about to say before you came on was I think the cross matching and transition is going to be a key. Also identifying who's your guy, picking him up, because otherwise you can get yourself in bad situations as well. And so I agree but I am concerned about the double big lineup for that reason alone. And Mitch's conditioning hasn't always been great, and so I'm curious if you're playing at that fast a pace, does Robinson hold up to that for 20-25 minutes? He doesn't always play that, but I think that's a concern now. If he's taking care of the boards and we're getting stops and those sorts of things, maybe it's livable.
See, I don't think it's a concern right now. Now after seeing the way after seeing what he's done, I don't think it's a concern right now. His conditioning.
The Pacers are a different animal than the Celtics, though. Like the Celtics want to shoot 3-pointers, but they're not gonna push the pace 94 feet like turn it into a track meet. Like they'll get their points, but they're not necessarily gonna kill you with early offense and running, beating you back. And we've seen this Knicks team be really flat-footed when it comes to getting back in transition. We've seen them be flat-footed on a made field goal, where a team will just get the ball and put it get out in front really quick, and they've got a 4-on-2, and we're like, what happened? All the Knicks are still, standing on the other side of the court.
Yeah, these first three games are going to tell us a lot about what these
the first game.
I think Queen, I agree with you. I think game 1 is really gonna we're gonna really get a feel for how this series is gonna go, and I think it's gonna determine how many games this series go. I just had a Pacers fan on our show earlier, and she mentioned the same thing, was that that first game, and even for the Pacers too, because the Pacers are going to be playing in an environment where right now the energy around this team and around this city is at an all-time high right now. Right. It's different from Game 7 last year because there were less expectations and injuries. Now this year, you're coming into a situation where the Knicks are the favorite. The pressure is on the Knicks. The Pacers have no pressure. They got this far, albeit due to some injuries with other teams they played, but they got to this point. And I think the Pacers are a much better team than they were last year in terms of Tyrese Halliburton meeting the moment. You know what I mean? Like, for example, game 2 against Cleveland, where Cleveland made some bad choices in the end, and Halliburton was able to capitalize on those turnovers and get that game-winning shot. In the previous round with Milwaukee, they had the 7 points in like 50-something seconds, and he was a big part of that. So the Pacers they're a different team. They're no longer the team that's going to make the mistake in crunch time. They're the team that has finally gotten the idea that we need to make certain plays right. Like, we got to inbound the balls properly. We can't turn the ball over. We got to be able to hit shots when we need to hit shots. This is a totally different team than last year's team. So I agree with Queen that I think game 1, is really going to be a determining factor on how far this series goes on both sides.
Yeah, but Trey, I'll say, I could say the same thing about us as well. With us, we're a totally different team as well.
Yeah.
With us having Mikal, I'm not even putting Towns in there. I think Mikal is gonna help with the as far as that transition and what you were just talking about. That's my opinion. That's my opinion about.
Yeah, we were talking, Trey, before you came in, and we'll get to the Pacers as well. What advantages do you think the Knicks have in this series going in?
The double big lineup, and I think I've come to grips that Tibbs is not going to change the starting lineup unless it's due to injury and not because he sees a certain matchup in a particular series. I think he's just going to run with the same starting 5, despite the fact that this starting 5 in moments throughout this postseason and really throughout the regular season that's gotten gashed, on the defensive side. So I think the double big lineup is going to be really, really important for this series because, again, we didn't have Mitch for the Pacers series last year. I think Mitch is going to present a big advantage for us, especially when it comes to the Pacers ball movement. They like to get that ball moving from side to side. I think Mitch does a great job, and you saw it in game 6 against Boston where he closed in on Jaylen Brown so quickly.
Exactly.
I think having him out there is going to help minimize Indiana's ball movement.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, and Geoff and I was just talking about this. Any concern about the double bigs in transition, matching up in transition, getting back down the, getting back, not just getting back down the floor, but getting back down the floor and matching up properly? Any concerns about that?
Yes, because the Knicks do have a lull, whether it's when they get a basket or when it's a bad shot being taken and they can't get back in transition on the defensive end. So yeah, I could see that being a concern just because Indiana, regardless of a defensive rebound or, they get scored on, they're going to look to push the pace regardless of what the result on the Knicks end is going to be. So yeah, I'd be concerned about that.
Yeah. And I think there's certain things that's going to dictate what the Knicks do. I think if the Knicks are getting beat in transition with that double big lineup, it's not going to be played as much. However, if the Knicks are controlling the glass and getting back in transition, we might see more of it. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Knicks do in transition, period, and how they are in transition with that double big lineup, because you can't be giving up transition baskets.
The key is going to be minimizing turnovers for the Knicks. If the Knicks protect the basketball, they're not going to be gashed by those easy transition baskets by the Pacers. If they start turning the ball over the way Denver did against OKC in Game 7, then it's going to be a problem. The Pacers will capitalize on that.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the two biggest advantages is that the Knicks have, in my opinion, the two best players in this series, and the Knicks have the two best defensive players in this series. And if you go to the bench and you add McBride and Mitch, you can argue that they have the four best defensive players in this series. And it and going back to the two defensive players, the luxury of being able to put a Mikal Bridges on Halliburton, and we haven't even talked about the matchup of OG Anunoby and Siakam,
Yeah.
and I don't think OG played maybe 2 games in the Pacers in the series last year before he got hurt.
He made Siakam very uncomfortable in the first 2 games. But then once he came out, once OG went down, it was open season. Siakam
That was the third quarter of Game 2, by the way, that he went down.
He went down Game 2?
He went down the third quarter of Game 2 after 28 points in 28 minutes. And we won that game, and then he was out the rest of the series.
Rest of the season.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now he's healthy, and knock on wood, he stays healthy. You don't have to double Siakam. To me, I don't want the Knicks doubling anybody. I don't want the Knicks giving them an advantage.
Yeah.
OG Anunoby can play Siakam one-on-one, and if he shoots over the top and he makes it, you'll live with it. I do think that OG can keep him below his average, and I do think he's going to be an inefficient scorer in this series with OG Anunoby on him. That's just how much I respect OG Anunoby's defense, his defensive IQ, and his length. And that's a luxury that the Knicks have going in, that we have players that can defend their 2 best players. And I don't think they have anyone that could defend our 2 best players. So I do think that's an advantage. And then obviously the Knicks are very good in close games, not just Brunson, clutch player of the year, and one of the best clutch players in the entire league, in my opinion. But the Knicks are used to playing close games.
Yeah.
The Knicks are used to play. So I do think that's an advantage for us.
Hey, Queen, I forgot to mention this in the beginning. I know we were talking about the Pacers. There's one player that I don't think we talked about. And if we did, I'm old. I missed it. Did we talk about Mathurin? Is it Math?
We have not talked about Mathurin, who did not play in the series last year.
Right. What's been his playoff performance been like for the past?
I think he did have a big game. They've played 10 games. They won both of their series in 5 games, right? They beat Miami 4-1 and they beat Cleveland 4-1. He comes off the bench. From what I understand, he's not a good defender. And so the Knicks should be able to take advantage of that. But offensively, he can have good games for them. And I believe, I forgot what series it was, he had a good game. He had a big game for them.
Yeah, he dropped 23. He dropped 23 against Cleveland. I think that might have been Game 1, maybe. They won that game.
He's averaged about 10 points in 17 minutes. So he's a Vinnie Johnson microwave type of guy. If your basketball goes back that far, he can just go on a heater and fill it up in a hurry. And it's nice to have in the second unit, especially. And he loves to run, and he's a terrific athlete. So he and Toppin and McConnell gets the rebound, throws it up to those 2 guys, and they either hit the 3 or dunk it. It can take an even game to a minus game for you pretty quickly if you don't match their intensity. But he doesn't guard well, so there's a plus and minus to both sides. You should be able to score with that kind of a lineup in there as well. So
he's averaging 11 points in the postseason per game. He's averaging just above 2 rebounds per game. And I mean, he's a bench player, so you're not really going to get that much huge production out of him. You might get a game or two out of him where, he might
Sometimes
go
that's
off.
all you need, though, Trey, to turn the series. You think
That's
about
true. That's true.
think about what we got from campaign in that first. That's like fount goal. If you have somebody come off the bench and give you something you're not expecting, that could blow the game open.
It's X Factor stuff. Yeah.
The only thing with Cam was you only got that like the first game of the Detroit series. After that, it's been like, it's been miss, unfortunately. You usually say hit or miss. It's been miss with him. And that's why I was saying, we were talking before about our bench. I wouldn't mind seeing Delon getting,
Yeah, I agree with you, Kev. Like, I want to see like Delon Wright maybe get some of Cam's minutes.
I mean, the only thing that it's a shame I'm saying this, because I remember Cam when he was with Philly last year, and then when he was also with Phoenix that went to the championship.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing about Cam that's so nerve-wracking is that he takes these threes that aren't necessary. All we need you to do is run the team.
Yeah, get the ball moving. Yeah,
get the ball moving. He's coming down and jacking up the three. It's like I know people have heard this before. We don't need that. We don't need that right then and there.
Yeah,
we don't.
Particularly against this team, where you do want to use the clock. Like, you do not want to come, and Bridges does this too, not as often as campaign.
Right.
You don't want to come down and jack up a shot early in the shot clock. Not in this series anyway.
No.
Any other advantages before we move on to what advantages the Pacers have? I only see a few, but I could be wrong. So for the Knicks, we talked about the two best players in the series, the two best defensive players. We talked about Mitch. We talked about our rebounding. We talked about our clutch play. And
I want to send an apology out to Deuce McBride, because I was destroying him in the
listen.
I was destroying him. I felt so bad now, but
I'm not apologizing for anything. As long as you're keeping the criticism in the moment,
in
terms of what they're doing right now, and you're not expounding and being like, "Oh, he's a trash player."
Right.
That's different. But if you're just saying he's stinking up the joint right now, he's stinking up the joint right now. And if next
he was
game
in that Detroit series,
he scored 50, he still stunk up the joint the prior game. So
yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
If I could point to a strength of the Pacers, it's just the fact that they could play 9-10 guys. And they're gonna have fresh bodies all throughout this series. And I think in terms of coaching, Rick Carlisle has a championship with the Mavericks from years ago. You can definitely. What's that?
Tibbs has a championship too.
Yes,
as an assistant coach.
As an assistant.
And if you talk to those players, they give him a lot of credit for that championship.
Yes, I've heard Kendrick Perkins say that a lot. So yes, I agree with that, Queen. I still want to give. I don't want to say who's got the advantage at coach when it comes to these two teams, but I just think with the system that the Pacers run, I feel like Carlisle's kind of got his hand on the pulse of what he's running there. It may be a slight edge, but we got the two best players in the series. I'll take that over any system with a guy with nobody that really scares you. Like if they needed a guy to take over a game for like 5 or 6 straight possessions, Indiana doesn't have that. Halliburton's not that guy. Can he meet in the clutch moments? Yes. You give him a moment, he can take advantage of it, but he's not going to be scoring, 12, 14 straight points on you to get you back in a game.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. I think like we're talking about the matchup problems they present for us. what we present for them. But a lot of times in the playoff games, there's particular moments where the stats and the schemes and all of that doesn't matter.
Go out the window. Yep.
We need a bucket, right? Right here. And I feel very comfortable with Brunson and this Knick team as a whole. Like, they don't lose their shit in these close moments,
Yeah.
Yeah. Geoff, did you have something you wanted to say? I just want to. They're crawling out of the woodworks. Kev, Jason Camacho. I still cannot unhear all that stuff Cornerstone said about Frank Ntilikina. Yo, he was so annoying, with the Ntilikina. Like,
Oh my God, man! Well,
He's been holding that receipt in his wallet for 4.5 years, bro.
Yes. Hey, I tell you, yes, I'm still a Frank Ntilikina fan. It's a shame he's out of the league and everything, but I don't know. I think Tibbs probably could have done a little bit more with with him and everything, like that. But yeah, I'll give you another. Here's one, and this is gonna make Trey laugh real hard. I was a Ron Baker fan.
Oh man.
Oh my God!
I think you might have been the only Ron Baker fan.
I was like, why are they giving him $4 million? 2 years, $8 million. Why? Anyway,
boy.
Anyway,
those starting lineups were brutal.
Yes, they were.
Yes, they were. Yes, all right, let's get back to the Pacers' advantage. So basically, you said their depth. Was that what you're saying?
Yeah, the depth of the Pacers
and the coaching, and
the coaching slightly, a slight advantage on the coaching with the Pacers.
Yeah. Do you think the coaching advantage is just how quickly he makes in-game adjustments, and or him just having more pieces to move around and do different things?
I think it's both. A little bit of both. I think just having the ability to play 9-10 guys allows you to be able to in-game adjust a lot better. I think with Tibbs, and bench is not great. I also don't think those guys get enough opportunities to show how good they can be. You know what I mean? There's a difference between, not playing guys because they're not good and just not playing guys because you don't want to. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think there's a slight difference, and I think that can sometimes affect Tibbs when it comes to just like in-game adjustments, like trying to be able to scrap a game plan on the fly, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, for sure. Geoff, any Pacer advantage you see?
A couple things, and they're kind of the same thing on different sides of the coin. The Pacers defense does a terrific job on limiting three-point shots. They really do a good job in rotation and getting out to the corners, especially. And so that eliminates a lot of the shot diet that OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, those are the shots we want in the corners. They're very good at taking those away. And when especially OG doesn't have that, it really makes you question if they're going to be able to get him enough good shots in the series to really have him be effective. And then on the flip side of that, Nembhard and Nesmith are two of the best corner three-point shooters in the entire NBA, and both of they do an excellent job of getting quality looks for them just because of what Halliburton's able to do with his his dance into the paint and drawing and dishing. So, I think the corner three could be the stat and the story of this series. And I think that is one place that the Pacers have an advantage.
Yeah. And I would think that's why we don't want to be in rotation, a lot so that we can stay home. Ajay, any advantage you?
I think their bench is the main and biggest and most concerning advantage because, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, you guys coming off their bench, man, that are relentless on both ends of the court, and they really aggressive, and they're one way. Shout out to Sharon Chloe, that's my guy. Um, I think that's their main advantage, and if we're able to sustain the second wave, I like to call them, with the bench players, again, a lot of our starters going to have to be on the court playing against those guys. So our conditioning and our stamina is going to play a very, very big role in the series. If we can stay on the court and play at high level when those bench players are in, like you mentioned earlier, Queen, we have to win those minutes. If we win those minutes, we're going to be in position to win every one of those games. Remains to be seen because they play at a high level. They play fast. We have to be able to keep the pace.
Listen, maybe we win those minutes so handily they shorten their rotation and bring their starters.
If they do that, then
in.
that's another advantage. If we get
Right.
them to change their game plan, shorten their rotation then it's we're in great position if they do that.
Yeah.
And the Knicks got to start fast too.
Yeah.
Like I'm tired of the slow starts. I know that's kind of in their DNA, but they got to really get off to a fast start in these games.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that.
Agree with that.
Geoff, you wanted to say something?
No, that was it.
Yeah, I feel like that when you look at the Pacers event, and maybe it's bigger. Like the Knicks, to me, it was like 7, and for them, it was their pace and depth, coaching, and the way they move the ball in their half court offense. Like this team is not just half court. You got to play them in transition, and you have to play them in the half court as well. All right, let's get to the last part of it. What do the Knicks have to do to win this series?
Protect the basketball would be my thing, because if you turn it over at a large clip, the Pacers are going to make you pay with their style of offense, with the way they get back in transition on offense, the way they can just, score in bunches. It doesn't matter who it is, Mathurin, Nemhard, Neesmith, Tyrese, it doesn't matter. They got like 6 or 7 guys averaging double-digit, points. So that's one thing for me. I'm going to be watching the turnover battle between these two teams as the series goes on.
Yeah, and these are both low turnover teams as well. So you're right, that could make a difference. Corners, Geoff, go ahead.
I think for me, and it goes hand in hand with what Trey just said, Jalen Brunson's process, I think, is the key to the series. If he goes in there and tries to make it about, outdoing Halliburton or schooling Nembhard or Naismith or whoever's on him, and it just becomes like a one-on-one personal vendetta, I think that's trouble for the Knicks. If he just lets the game come to him and just allows his teammates to do their thing, and then and let the offense run and work efficiently, then I think that puts the advantage in the Knicks court, especially if we're feeding Towns early. I know this is going to shock you, but I'm going to be a proponent of a Towns Brunson pick and roll. I think that might be a good idea to run a couple of times. But really to just, don't make it about Jalen, make it about the team. And I think sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes he gets locked in on a certain thing. And then we, I'm going to foul this guy out. And then, well, yeah, you fouled him out, but we're down by 10, right? So just his process, if his process is good, he's the best player in the series, and I think he lifts us to the win. But that to me is Jalen Brunson is the key.
Okay, all right. Cornerstone, what's one of the things the Knicks need to do to win this series?
Get Karl Anthony Towns involved.
Yeah,
very early, and punish that front line of Indiana. This kid has all the fundamentals. He was a number 1 pick in the draft for a reason. He needs the ball. He needs to get his tail on the block, down low, get him the ball, and let him go to work. I want to see more of that. If I'm Hart, if I'm OG, if I'm Brunson, if I'm whoever, I'm telling, and then if I'm the coach, get on the block so I can get you the ball and you go to work. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I do think they need to prioritize Cat. He can't be an afterthought.
No, not in
in
this.
it.
No, from here
Not
on
in
out,
this
cannot
series.
be. He
Yeah.
cannot be. He's got to get that front line in foul trouble or whatever, but he's got to be Karl Anthony Towns. I've seen this kid as an opponent. He's always punished us. It's time for him. He's on our team now. He's got to start punishing the opposition now.
Yeah, and I think you want him in the post because he does have the advantage, and at the same time, you want him to play his game. You
True.
know, in
But
game 6, he played at all 3 levels. He was in the post. He drove the basketball. He shot 3-pointers. He was just very diverse. Now, sometimes teams take that away, you know, um, and make it difficult for you to get him them threes. But the Knicks have to figure it out and prioritize him, because I do think he's the swing factor in this series. They have nobody for him.
can handle him.
And if they double team him, and this is one of the things about him playing with his back to the basket, he can't see where the double team is coming from.
That's true.
Like, just get the ball down low, just turn around.
Yeah.
Just turn around.
Yeah.
That way you can, and I've said this many times, you could shoot it, you could drive it, you can pass it.
And he's a great passer. For a
Yeah.
big man like him, he's a great passer. I did not know, he was like this. I did not. We only get to see him twice in the year. This year we got to see the whole thing, and I was like, whoa, okay. He's got that in his arsenal.
Yeah. Ajay, give us something that you think the Knicks have to do to
most importantly, I think we have to be consistent on defense. We have to communicate on defense. We cannot allow this team to start running us out our own gym. Okay, we have to body them. We have to stay in their face. We have to let them feel the defense. We have to let them feel the presence of the Knicks defense. Because if we start allowing them to run with the ball, it's going to be a very short series, and we're going to be on the
outside looking in.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Yeah. I wanna highlight Thibodeau in terms of what I want to see from him in terms of us winning this series. And to the point about Karl Anthony Towns, what's the offensive schemes? Yes, I do agree Towns needs to be more aggressive, but what are the schemes that help him get the ball in the places in which he's most comfortable, and that is an advantage. That is also an advantage for us. Like figure it out. I don't know the answer to this, but this is why he gets paid the big bucks. Like, figure it out how to prioritize Cat, get him involved, playing his game, and that's also taking advantage of the Pacers. What's the defensive scheme to contain Halliburton? He's the head of the snake. What's the defensive scheme? The double big lineup, when to use it, when not to use it. Are they getting back in transition, and so you can use it more? Or are we getting beat every time they're on the floor, but yet you continuing to keep them in because maybe you feel like we're getting it back on the offensive end? I don't know. I just need Thibodeau to be on point. Don't stick with Hart too long over McBride. And I get it. This is not an easy decision. We talk about this all the time. When you take out Hart, you're not just taking out the poor spacing, you're taking out defense, you're taking switchability, you're taking out offensive and defensive rebounds, you're taking out potentially, transition buckets. I get it. But there are times when you're not getting much of that and you're not getting the spaces. And I just want him to just, be kind of quick on the draw to recognize when the scale has tipped and it's time to take Josh Hart out. The same thing with the starting lineup. I get it. He's not going to change it. But you got to have a quick hook.
Yeah.
You got to have a quick hook. You can't just sit with them and we're down 5, 10, 15. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be quick on the draw. So I'm looking at the rotations. I'm looking at the offensive schemes, the defensive schemes. This to me is a toss-up. I know some people may disagree with this, but this could be a toss-up. Could be a toss-up series. And if the Knicks aren't handling their business, they can easily lose this series. But if they're maximizing themselves and what they do, they can easily win this series, And I think Tom Thibodeau is going to be a factor in that. Anything else? Or any comment on that or anything else?
Yeah, a couple things. They beat us. Now, I'm going to keep going back to last year. They beat us with half a squad. They beat us with, with us being half a squad. We have everyone healthy, knock on wood. I honestly, I'm not saying that we're going to sweep. I'm not even saying it's going to go, 5 games. But we're going to win this series. They have it fresh in their mind about what happened. I think they are motivated. I think they are determined to take these guys out. That's the first thing. And back to what you were saying, Steph, about Tibbs, I totally agree with you. I believe, this is my opinion, back in game 5 of that Boston series, remember, it was a tie game at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't bring Mitch or any of those other, well, I'll use Mitch as an example. He didn't bring him in until like the start of the fourth quarter. I think if he would have brought him back in, in the third quarter, we're probably talking about us winning game 5 because of the defense that he gives. So to your point, Steph, yes, he's got to be on point with his substitutions. He's got to be on point with his substitutions. He can't let it, jump out to like you said, 5, 10, 50. He can't do that. Not with,
right.
Not with this team. After what he's been through with this team, he can't let that happen.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else?
Well, I think one thing that to keep in mind about the Pacers too, they're not going to crack under the pressure. They're not too small for this moment. They've seen the worst the MSG crowd can give. They've lived through it. They expect it. Not only that, they have confidence. Like, we can come up with our excuses and whatever we want. And while it's a fact that we were injured, in the Pacers' mind, they don't think of it like that. They think we went in there and we took game 7 and we blew these guys out. They have a level of confidence that they're at least as good as we are. And I think they expect to win the series and win it pretty easily. So I definitely think they have that confidence factor. Now, that can turn into cockiness and could work against them too. But even if they go down 0-2, they are able to say, hey, we did this before. We've been here before against this team before. And so I do think that they have a quiet confidence when it comes to playing the Knicks. And I think that could prove important, especially if the series goes longer. I think the longer the series goes, the more it favors them, just for the simple fact that they have more bodies that they play. If we can get them out the door in 4 or 5, I think that would be ideal. The more minutes that we have to log, because it's just every other day, boom, boom, boom. It's tough to do that with a 7-man rotation, but it is what it is.
But a 7-man machine, like these guys are in these guys are in shape though. I get it. They are going to be playing at a higher pace than usual, but it's the Knicks they're in shape. They are built for it, but it would be nice if we can squeak one other player into the into the rotation.
Yeah. Whether that be Payne or Chua, it doesn't matter who. If we could get that. In fact, I'll say this, and I have an article coming out tomorrow about keys to the series on my blog. But I really think that not in every game, but I think in 1 or 2 games, we're going to need a performance from one of those guys. Just one, and it may not be a lot. It may just be a 5-minute stretch where they play really good ball that helps when Cat's in foul trouble, or whatever the case may be. It may be something small. It may be campaign having a decent game once and giving Brunson a chance to rest so that he's fresher in the fourth quarter, and then he outplays the Pacers in the fourth. Just something small like that. It may not be something big, but I kind of feel like we're going to need one. We're going to have to be at 7.5, 7 3/4. We're going to have to drag one of those guys, doesn't matter who, in to just give us a little bit of a booster shot in the arm, a little bit of that extra push to get us over the edge.
Yeah. Anything else before we get to predictions?
Shout out to A-Train Queen. I actually meant to point this out in the beginning of the show that some Knick somewhere is gonna win a champ. Some ex-Knick is gonna win a championship this year, because there's a recent Knick in every one of those teams left in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I meant to bring that up.
Hopefully it's us.
It's many Knicks, exactly. Not just one here, 2
most
there.
Knicks.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And A-Train again. Cornerstone was the president.
I can't.
All right.
So many years ago.
Get to predictions. Cornerstone, we'll start with you.
I say Knicks in 6.
Okay. All right, Trey.
Knicks in 6.
Okay. All right.
But I'm hoping I'm a little selfish because I don't know if anybody's going to Fanatics Fest this year, but I found out that Fanatics Fest is going to be the same day as a potential Game 7. And if we happen to get home court and it's a Game 7, I'm gonna be I won't be at the game. I'm gonna be at Fanatics Fest, but I'm gonna be around, and that would be dope if it were to turn out that we can get to a game.
Or just sweep it in 4, and then the Fanatics can just go crazy and just have a good time.
There we go.
Not have to worry about any stress that day.
There we go.
Geoff?
Oh, I always am hesitant to pick the Knicks because I'm a jinx, but I think it's going to be Knicks in 6, just like they do. I think that the only team that can beat the Knicks in this series is the Knicks. We take care of business and we play to our capabilities. I think we're the more talented team, and most of the time that wins out unless you shoot yourself in the foot. So I'm going to go with my colleagues here who are smarter than I am and say Knicks in 6.
Can I ask a question, Geoff?
Yeah.
Did you pick Boston? Before?
I did.
Okay.
You're trying that reverse psychology.
I picked Boston in 5. And I was very wrong. And I was happy to be very wrong. So with that in mind, Pacers in 5.
Oh my God.
So I'm gonna, like I did the last time, right? So we have Queen. We have today's Tuesday, so we have a show on Thursday, right?
Mhm.
My prediction is only going to be for tomorrow's game. I'd say Knicks take game 1 tomorrow at the Garden, and Thursday we'll move along. Thursday we'll do a prediction for the next one. So the Knicks take game 1 tomorrow. That's my prediction.
Yeah. The Knicks in 7, either 5 or 7. I don't see the Knicks winning game 6 in Indiana. So I have the Knicks in 7,
At
but
all?
I mean, if they could,
That's crazy because you had Knicks in 6 against Boston. So that means you think the
That's
Pacers
true.
are a better team than the Celtics?
That's true.
Let me ask.
No, I had no. I changed it. Initially, I had Boston in 6.
Oh, okay.
But once we won the first 2 games, I was like, yeah, Knicks in 6.
So really, there's a 2-game buffer there. So that means a gentleman's sweep because you're saying Knicks in 7. You said Celtics in 6, and we won in 6. So that's a 2-game sway. So really, saying Knicks in 7 is really Knicks in 5.
All right, here we go.
Let me dream a little. Let's dream a little, and everybody in the chat too.
I do want to say one more thing, Kev.
Oh yeah, sure.
And the reason I say Knicks in 7 because I don't have a feel for this team being consistent. I do think they're more talented than Indiana, but Indiana is more consistent. Like they know who they are. This is how they play, and they play like that every single night. The Knicks play up to their capabilities one night, another night they don't. Then they got to come and bounce back. That's why I say Knicks in 7 because I just think it's going to be 1 or 2 stinkers in there for the Knicks of their own accord. I shouldn't say that. I think Indiana will have something to do with it, but sometimes they just shoot themselves in the foot. If it's that Knicks team from Game 6 locked in, Knicks in 5. I just don't think we're going to get that team consistently. That's why I say Knicks in 7.
And Queen,
oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say to echo Queen, the Pacers really are consistent. Like they'll do something until you stop them. They'll go back and watch the game. If they find a play that worked, they're gonna keep doing it until you figure out a way to stop it. They're gonna keep doing the same thing over, like repeat until you stop it. Like they're like machines. They really do that. If I don't know if you could find some clips online. They'll literally run the same play over and over and over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If the Knicks somehow, some way sweep Indiana, what would your opinion be of this Knicks team if they swept Indiana?
That they become more consistent because we know they have the ability to do that. That they've peaked, they're peaking, but if they sweep, it's like they're still, they're still trending up. That would be
or you could say the Pacers are frauds because they beat 2 injured teams to get to us.
Okay.
Or you could say both. Both could be true, right? The Pacers could be frauds, and the Knicks could finally be gelling. Those aren't. There's a Venn diagram that has both of those in it. I'm pretty sure.
The Pacers were frauds last year. They beat a bunch. They beat injured team, get to the final. What did they do over there? They got swept.
Right.
Well, maybe they can do it again. I'm for sweeping the Pacers. Let's let history repeat itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been a stressful 5 days for me. I can't wait for this series to get started.
Friday was the stress level was at a high.
Friday? Why?
Ajay wasn't stressed.
Huh?
Ajay was not stressed on Friday.
Why?
I was because of what happened in Game 5.
You guys, man. Yeah, that game was over before it started.
I told you. I told everybody this, that once I saw what Mitchell Robinson did on that play where he guarded everybody, and then once I saw that, that's when I was like, yeah, we got this. we got this, because there ain't no way that, Mitch pulls that off. And then, man, I said that was the turning point of the game, really, for me. That was a turning point.
Yeah. The way as bad as Game 5 was, they weren't going to have that kind of game in Game 6. We've seen this team all season long. Like,
that's true. I mean, that's a point. That's a great point. Throughout these playoffs, at least for Jalen Brunson, he hasn't had like 2 bad games in a row. It hasn't happened.
When you see 2 bad games, 2 like that, and that wasn't just bad. That was like terrible games.
Yeah.
If you see 2 terrible games, okay, we're gonna lose this series because this team is just better. The team we play is just better. There's nothing we can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready for some fun. I'm ready for some fun tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm having Knicks withdrawal.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Been waiting for a game since Friday, man.
Yes, me too.
All weekend, and then Monday and Tuesday. It's like
me too.
Man, gonna play.
Because from what people saying in the chat and from what I'm seeing, on my phone here, I don't think Minnesota ready.
but I mean, listen, Minnesota not ready. But
it's a bad game.
It's one game. No, but listen, shout out to Randall. I mean, Randall,
he's the only one playing.
He is like he's balling. He had 20 points in the first half.
Yeah, he's the only one playing.
Oh, what, this game?
Yeah, this game right now. He's 20 points in the first half. I mean, he could not miss from 3. I don't know what he shot, but it seems like every time he threw it up, like he was hitting it every time he threw up a 3-pointer.
All right, well,
in the first half.
So he's 13 of 19 from the field. The rest of the team is 10 of 70.
That's a shame.
And that's not even a joke.
Wow.
Oh, look, and he's 5 of 6 from 3-point range. 5 of 6.
Wow.
83%.
Well,
wow.
Ant-Man got some work to do.
No,
yeah, exactly.
Ant-Man kind of got hurt though. I think he hurt his ankle.
Oh.
In the game, yeah.
Oh. If that's the case, then
but he came back though, but he's still not playing.
Oh, he's 20.
He re-aggravated. It was that the same ankle he aggravated against the Warriors
and the Lakers. Remember, LeBron landed on his ankle.
Right. That's what I meant. The Lakers series. Wow.
Injuries, right? All right. Anyway, shout out to the chat: A Train, Greg, Kevin Bergen, Jeb Klafter as a relationship with you. All right, Jeb, appreciate you stopping by. Paris Duggar.
Oh, y'all, Ron Baker.
Man. President of the fan club.
Oh, man. Hey, that showed my loyalty. Those are dark times.
Jabroni _Z. Let's just shout out the chat real quick. Nostalgic Nick, appreciate you as well. David Elbaya, appreciate you. Ajay tweeting from the bathroom when he left, appreciate you. Appreciate you. Space Ghost. He getting a comment in. I'm like, okay, he's still locked in. He's locked in.
I was listening while driving, so I was like, oh, let me quick a little text.
Johnny Davis, appreciate you.
Thanks, Jim Klafter. Klafter. He was a president.
And Paris Doug, appreciate the super chat. Oh, Wonder Woman was in the house early. Kerry Cox, Tony Crow,
Nick was in the house
as well. Say that again.
Nostalgic Nick was in the house real early, like 3 o'clock.
Nostalgic Nick. Yeah, appreciate you.
You got East Blue Drew was in there.
Beast Blue Drew, for sure. Kerry Cox. Sherwin dropped in for a minute.
Yeah, Wonder Woman. Sherwin, yeah.
Parrish Duggar.
Yep. All right, we out of here. Everybody predictions? No last words.
Right. I think we're gonna get it. I have a feeling. that we're gonna get a consistent Knicks team. in these playoffs right here.
If we get that, then Knicks in 5.
Queen, reminder, 2 reminders. Hit the like button on the way out, and we're gonna be back here on Thursday between the 2 games.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeff and I'll be back Thursday morning, right, Jeff?
You
For
bet.
for the game recap and reaction. Anybody who's up that early and wants to join us, you can, but definitely Thursday night, 9 p.m. for the weekly show.
If nobody's bugging me, Thursday morning I might join y'all.
Sweet.
All right.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that would be great. Until next time, fam.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Don't so,
Where you at? Where you at?
don't so,
Where you at? Where you at?
don't so,
What?
don't so.
What?